I'm Tyler Yahn. I am a maintainer for the OpenTelemetry Go SIG. I work in some auto instrumentation there and specification.
I'm Tobey. I am Senior Principal Engineer for Digital Interconnection at Equinix. I maintain a tool called OTel CLI.
Yeah. You maintain OTel CLI?
Yeah, that's my project.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so that mostly just has traces right now, and I've been meaning to implement logs and metrics for a while, but I think like logs just went GA recently, so it's time to do it. But traces have been so effective and people really like it that I haven't really had a lot of demand for them.
Is that OTel CLI part of, is it really like part of OpenTelemetry?
It's not yet. I maintain it on our Equinix labs. GitHub account, and so mainly it's like, there's not a lot of process. Mostly it's just me with a few folks like Alex and others that throw me a PR every now and then. But like I've thought about bringing it back to the community, but I'd have to like maybe be not so far away from the standards as I am right now. Because like doing it in the command line, a lot of the standards don't really translate very well.
Yeah.
So I've strayed a little bit away from the standards in new places, but it would make sense to move here, and I talked to Austin about it.
Hey, I got Ted Young with me.
Hello.
Hello.
Carter, Socha. I work on a couple of different things. I'm one of the few product managers floating around, but I helped start the OpenTelemetry demo, which I'm a maintainer of. I also work in the SIG security, which helps the project improve their security response processes, and I'm a maintainer.
My name is Bogdan. I took a break for parental leave, so I'm just ramping back.
Okay, what were you doing before?
I've done a lot of things, including member of TC, member of GC, maintainer of collector, maintainer. I was former maintainer of Java, so I've been done quite sometimes.
Not a lot.
Hi, I'm Constance Caramanolis.
I know that you were involved in OpenTelemetry. You are one of the OG contributors. Tell us about that involvement.
Yeah, so I was on the OpenTelemetry collector. I was contributing to that. I did a lot of config things, like sets of configs. And I was also on the OpenTelemetry documents Tobey. So I did start off like we were doing incubation process, starting out all the gathering and our TOC. A lot of putting processes in place with REST and GC, getting adoption. We also did quite a few talks.
My name is Juraci. I'm a software engineer, and I've been working with telemetry systems or observability for a few years now. I come from a tracing background, so I was a maintainer on Yahn. I was part of open tracing back in the days, and I helped choose the name of the project that we have in room today. So yeah. And right now I'm a collector developer. I help out on some components for OpenTelemetry collector, and I'm also part of the governing committee for OpenTelemetry.
And newly re-elected, right?
I was just re-elected, yes.
Yay.
In a couple of years, yeah.
My name is Jacob Aronoff. I am a maintainer for the OpenTelemetry Operator project.
Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm a contributor, maintainer in OpenTelemetry. Wrote a book about OpenTelemetry. I don't know what else. I do stuff with OTel. Cool. I am a contributor and maintainer of the OpenTelemetry collector and the OpenTelemetry collector contrib repo. And I have been spending a lot of time in various SIGs and specialty working groups around configuration and security, and previously I spent a bunch of time maintaining and contributing to Python.
Hey, my name is Purvi. I am a senior software engineer. I've worked over my career a lot with browsers and JavaScript.
First question, we're here talking about observability. So what does observability mean to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Personally, I think observability means that like when you're woke up at 2 a.m. To go fix a problem, you can fix it. And ideally, the next day, you're able to look at that code again and find out a way to never have that problem exist.
Yes.
I think that's really what it means to me.
It means being able to look at things coming out of the box and tell what's going on inside the box. Be very great.
I like that.
First of all, it's monitoring. But really, like, observability is this nebulous term, but it did show up as part of a sort of shift in how we are thinking about monitoring our systems. And I would say that shift is
the way we used to do it was you had these different signals. You needed logs, so you had a logging system. You needed metrics, so you made a metric system. You needed tracing, but you didn't know what that was, so you didn't do it. And instead of having these three separate, totally siloed systems, what we've been doing over the past couple of years, especially in the OpenTelemetry project, is trying to say, it's really bad for these three things to be separate, or the four things if you include profiling. When you're using these tools, you use them together. You're moving back and forth between them, right? Like you get an alert based off of a metric that you set up. But when that alert goes off because errors or something is spiked, the next thing you want is to look at the logs that are in the transactions that are causing these alerts. If you want to look at the logs that are in a particular transaction, you really want to have a trace ID stable to all of those logs so you can actually look them up. So we want to actually use all these tools together. And in order to use all of these tools together, you need to have the data coming in, the telemetry, actually be integrated, right? So you can't have three separate streams of telemetry and then on the back end be like, I want to cross-reference things. All of that telemetry has to be organized into an actual graph. You need a graphical data structure that all of this, all of these individual signals are a part of. For me, that is what modern observability is all about. It's about having all of this data connected into a graph in such a way that we can leverage the machines to do what they're good at, to reduce the amount of time we need to spend investigating issues. Instead of being like, I wonder if this is the problem, therefore I am going to collect all the logs and grep through them, try to winnow it down to something, or I'm going to look at all the config files myself and try to figure out what's going on. You can just quickly get an answer to a lot of those questions and then move on to the next hypothesis. The amount of time you save with modern observability, I think, changes how we actually practice it. And that's an ongoing trend, but with OpenTelemetry going, effectively going GA this year, with tracing metrics and logs now stable. Yes, huzzah, finally! Only like 2 years late anyways. But the fact that we have that now, the fact that we now have telemetry that has all of these correlations baked into it, you're going to start seeing a new wave of analysis tools, all the existing ones out there, but also new ones being built that leverage the fact that this data is available and that it's like a standard data format. It's not a proprietary data format. It's a stable data format. You can rely on it, so it's like okay to build your giant platform on top of this data, or build some kind of like boutique analysis tool that just does one thing and does it really well. So that's where I see it all going, and that's what observability means to me.
What does observability mean to me? It means that like an application owner, you can see what's going on in their environment and answer pertinent questions to them about their business and how they can improve their service.
Observability, it's an overloaded term in our days, but it means the capability of monitoring and determining when something goes wrong in your production environment.
Observability means, what does it mean to me? More as, I use it as a tool to kind of just making sure that things are working the way you want. It's getting insight into red black boxes or even white boxes. I view it more as you kind of see things and you have a lot more questions from it, and then you use your observability to actually figure out what's going on. So I like to call it murder mystery usually.
I like that.
Right, especially when you get a page.
Mystery.
Yeah.
I want to use that on a slide.
You should.
That's a good question. I mean, I think without going too strict on a definition, I think what it really means is it is a way for us to understand what the problems are. So if we have a problem in our systems, we should be able to answer or to determine what is going wrong or what's happening. And it doesn't matter if it comes from logs or metrics or traces, as long as we can tell and understand what's going on. I think that's when we can say we have observability. And it's not a yes or no, right? It is a spectrum. So I don't expect to have observability, perfect observability from day one. But I am expected to have some sort of telemetry that helps me understand what's going on. So I think telemetry is like a path to getting into a perhaps utopic place where we understand everything about our systems.
What does observability mean to me? I think observability is understanding what's happening inside of your applications. Maybe what's happening in the code you care about. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it means everything. Observability is life. I think observability means that when something goes wrong, I can ask a question about my systems and get a sense of what is happening without having to know ahead of time what to expect. Like I can just go and dig into my data, and my services are instrumented well enough, not perfectly, but well enough that I can just figure out what happened and can I reproduce this thing that happened in probably production off like in my own environment so that I can like improve my code to manage it better next time.
I like what you said about not instrumented perfectly.
There is no such thing as perfect instrumentation.
Right?
That's a lie.
Just like there's no such thing as done code.
Right, that's also a lie.
Yes.
Or that the network will never break. That's a lie.
Oh, that's such a good question. To me, observability is really about like being able to get curious with your data and be able to have a lot more confidence about your production system. So being able to kind of squash things before they arise. Testing in production is the best way to test your systems because no matter what people say, prod is always its own different animal. And like if you have really good observability, you can test the prod. And it's just a much better experience for your users and for your developers too.
Absolutely. When did you get involved with OpenTelemetry?
I got involved in 2019, I think.
So like early.
Yeah, I was not at the original meeting, but
okay.
I got in really early. I really love writing Go, and so that's where I started. But I was pretty quick into the specification and started working in that space. And I think it was just coming from the pain point of having to run systems and being that person who was woke up at 2 a.m. I wanted a better software solution for this, and like I saw the value in it, and I jumped in. Yeah.
We work in pain and trauma, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What motivates us?
Yeah.
When I was hired into Equinix, they hired me to instrument their entire stack for the Equinix Cloud product. So that's what I worked on for my first year at Equinix, was instrumenting. This was like 3 years ago, before all the fancy auto instrumentation stuff was complete. Adding instrumentation to all of our.
So you're an OG user of OpenTelemetry.
A little bit.
The team I was working on at Microsoft, at least my org was already doing a lot in the OpenTelemetry space, and that seemed to be where all the cool things were happening. And so that kind of got my interest, and then I got switched to working with a development team that was focused solely on OpenTelemetry, both for external purposes and internal purposes, because Microsoft uses OpenTelemetry really heavily internally, and so that's what got me introduced. And when I started looking around, wondering where I could start, I realized there was no real good example of how to use OpenTelemetry in the wild. And so that was a problem that I thought every vendor might have, and something we could solve together as a community, and we have.
Oh, that's so cool. How long have you been working on OpenTelemetry?
Since the beginning.
So like 2019 or like pre?
Even pre, but yes.
Oh, so you're like, did you start out with Ted in the 3 days?
Actually, we were two competing projects that merged into OpenTelemetry.
Right.
So I was on the other project.
Oh, which one? OpenCensus?
Yeah.
I got involved with OpenTelemetry through working at Honeycomb. That's how I got involved with it, and I have a particular interest in OpenTelemetry JavaScript and especially the browser side of OpenTelemetry JavaScript. So it's been really great to be involved with this.
What's your definition of OpenTelemetry?
I think OpenTelemetry is it's a standard. I think it's a collaboration across the entire observability space, and it is, I think, a path forward for all of instrumentation. The idea that you don't have any vendor lock-in, the idea that you can just take one code base and always have some way to look into a system. I think it's the future of how we're going to make software better in the long term.
OpenTelemetry for me makes my life easier because I can integrate it with open source components that I'm using or proprietary components. And at the end of the day, all of the OpenTelemetry flows through to my observability vendor, and I can see traces across all of my products that I use in one place.
It's my project of soul.
I think OpenTelemetry gets really biased in terms of this, but I feel like it's a really good combination of a lot of different views finally coming together to start actually, making the previously hard bit easier. Like it's like gather the data, right? The hard part is actually making sense out of it, and so they're finally coming together in a way that's worked out pretty well in terms of collaboration to get metrics, trace with logs.
So, that's a deep question.
Very philosophical.
Yeah, it is. On a technical side, it means OpenTelemetry for me is a set of tools that will help me get telemetry data out of my system. Typically applications, sometimes also infra. But OpenTelemetry really is the tool that I can use to, in a vendor-neutral way, get data out of my applications so that I can get into that new topic state. I mean, if I had perfect instrumentation, then I can get into this topic place. But OpenTelemetry provides me the tools that I need to gradually get into that state. Now, it does stop at a very specific place in this path, which is as soon as you send data out, that's where OpenTelemetry stops. That's where you get to the vendors or to the open source tools that provide you the databases and the visualization tools and so on. But a more deeper aspect, I think OpenTelemetry is where I have my friends here, my colleagues, so people that I work on a daily basis for a few years now. So yeah, that's what OpenTelemetry is for me.
What does it mean to you? What's the concept? OpenTelemetry is observability backed by everybody. It's not a single vendor. It's letting you do the thing that is agnostic to where you send the data. In the same way that you don't have to, relearn how to drive a car every time you step into a new car. You don't have to learn how to ride a bike, based on the vendor of the bike that you buy from. You should be able to, instrument your code no matter where you send that data. So that's how I sell it. That's how I think about it.
Awesome.
The other benefit is we, as the maintainers, we have a lot of our maintainers here, and improvers here, so we can collaborate and work together to, figure out what's really needed in the next coming months.
It's like a reunion.
It is. I described it almost like summer camp. There are some people where I haven't seen you in a few months. How you been? It's catching up like that.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, OTel has been amazing. The project itself has been wonderful. It's one of the first projects to take a bunch of standards and condense them down to less standards. We took open census, open tracing. We brought Prometheus to the table. The Elastic Cache format is there. OpenTelemetry just is a wonderful community that's all trying to make things better in the observability landscape. By working across vendor boundaries, which has just been something that I've never done in the past. I've never worked in an open source project where so many vendors are involved and so many end user communities are involved, and it's been great.
Yeah, and that's what I like personally about OpenTelemetry, because everyone plays nice. And
Right.
I feel like it's a very deliberate, no, we are not going to favor one vendor over another, and if a vendor tries to showboat, it's pretty much shut down, which I think is great.
Right. We've just had a lot of really good folks at all the levels of the project trying to push everybody in the right direction, which I really appreciate. I think I'm going to give a shout out to Ted Young for especially being one of those people that always he's over there somewhere. I can see him just looking around. See?
We're waving at Ted.
He has no idea we're talking about him.
OpenTelemetry, to me, is really all about the community, communities being able to take ownership of their own telemetry data, because vendors should not be determining the type of telemetry data that gets sent to your systems, because observability about your systems is so personal to your own system, and when you have vendor lock-in or lock-in through like the instrumentation for vendors, it can be really limiting.
What is your favorite telemetry signal?
That's a good question.
The cool stuff.
I wish I had a good nuanced answer there. Like, I don't know, metrics I've known for the longest, I guess. But I think traces are probably a little closer because you get a lot more like depth into like operational behavior.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'd probably go with traces. It's also like a little bit more automatic for you. You really have to understand like what those metrics are and like build them into something.
Yeah.
Versus tracing, you can show you based on just the structure that they come with. Yeah. So yeah, I'll go tracing.
Oh, it's traces, of course.
My favorite signal would probably be the bat signal. Like, if that thing could go on every time a system goes down, that would be it.
So, I think I've heard this reference around, and I truly believe it. Traces are just the cooler version of logs. Like, it's like logs with a mustache. With like maybe a top hat, because essentially a spin is just a log, but a trace is correlated logs. So I'd probably say traces, but, you know, my backup answer is logs.
Signal. I think the most I like metrics. I think we did try to change the way how metrics were done before, and we may not have been the most successful yet, but we are getting there. But it was a necessary change, and I feel like it changed something the way how things were done. For tracing, I mean, we didn't change too much from other Dapper paper or other things, but for metrics, I think we changed more.
Oh, cool.
I love traces, especially because you can, like, my favorite example is like when I used to do, when I was at Lyft and I would get pages in the middle of the night, I was always like, okay, you know, one service 14 was getting paid, you know, everything was going, you know, everything between that and the front was getting paid. So, like, you were able to actually figure out, like, okay, this one's a clause, instead of only thinking about it. So that's what I love about it. And I know it's very different paradigms than what we're used to talking about.
Traces, come on. So beautiful. No, it is. Traces.
Traces, number one. They are the easiest to work with. They are so simple to get started, and they're just so much more useful than anything else. So traces all the way.
Traces, because it's clearly the elegant log, but also you can just get metrics out of it. It has like everything you need in a signal. It's metrics and logs correlated with context. It's beautiful. They're magic.
Oh, that's easy. It's tracing.